Okay, for those of you playing bells who want to start playing the snare drum as well, there's just a couple things we want to talk about real quickly, and then we're going to take you through the four basic things you need to know to be caught up on the snare drum. If you notice on your book, every time on the left side on page 6, you're going to see page 6 for drums. On the right side, you'll see page 6 for mallet. So now, whenever we play the snare drum, we're going to look to the left side of the page rather than the right side of the page. As we begin, let's just talk about the differences between the two. There's a lot of similarities, but there's also some differences as well. And it's going to take your brain and your muscles a little time to separate those. So don't get all frustrated at the very beginning when you try to play one like one or one like the other. Let's start with the grip. And as I take a look at the bell grip, from the top, they look very similar. From the top, they look very similar because we're still going to have our thumb and our second knuckle as the pivot point, just like a teeter-totter on both of these instruments. But guess what? On the bells, we go ahead and put our hands around there and we hold it because they don't move. We hit one time for one. So one wrist movement makes one wrist movement makes the one hit. With the snare drum, we're going to actually do more different hits than just a single hit like that. So instead of the fingers being there and actually being able to hold the mallet, in this case, we're going to turn over and you can see that actually these two hold it all the time. This one comes up there and this one comes up here, and these three are more like springs. They're kind of like holding there like shock absorbers on your car, so that sometimes they actually are moving and holding it in place. Sometimes they're going to let it buzz. And so you're going to see that there's a difference between just the way that we hold the stick and the way that it moves. So that's going to be the biggest difference for you, okay? So with the mallet, again, it's going to just be, ding, 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 ding with a single hit. With the snare drum, from the top it looks the same, but underneath these fingers are more like springs holding the stick in place when they want to hold it in place, but also relaxing it and loosening it when they want it to do other things that we're going to be talking about in just a few minutes. Okay, so that is the biggest difference right there, is the way you hold the stick, and the strokes are actually going to look very similar. We're still going to be using our wrist. All that is going to be very similar, but again, just the way that the stick moves is just different than the way that the mallet moves. Okay, so as you start looking at that, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's a little weird, and it'll take a little time for your muscles to feel comfortable doing that. Now, when you start playing, the first thing you're going to want to start doing is just like we did with the bells, 25-50-50. We got to get their left hand sounding good. We got to get the right hand, should be easier sounding good, and then playing both together sounding good. So here we go. Let's take a look. If we're doing 25-50-50, I would do, in my case, my strong hand is my right hand, so I'd start with that. I'm going to look for about a quarter right in the middle of the snare drum, and that's where I'm going to be trying to put both of my, the tips of both of my sticks there. So with the 25-50-50, same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and you go on from there. And then with the left stick, 1, 2, 3, 4. And remember, when you do the 25-50-50, you're actually looking at the sticks, and this is the only time that we want you looking at the sticks. And we want them to look roughly the same height going up and down, and more importantly, we want them to sound the same. So you do it with your left, and then of course, when we start going what we call alternate sticking, going left and right opposite. And we want to try to make them look as close to the same as possible, and more importantly, sound as close to the same as possible. So doing that 25-50-50 every day is important, and even as I'm doing this, first thing I'm thinking about is I don't have a grip underneath. I've got the grip between the first two fingers, and these other fingers are like springs holding it to me, and then right now they're just kind of loosely holding that. Okay? All right, so let's take a look at some of the songs that you can practice and some of the strokes you need to practice. The first stroke we're going to look at, I just call a tap, and it's just about 1 inch off the ground, or 1 inch off of the head. I'm going to lift it up just a touch, and then it's going to be almost a little drop, and then it's going to bounce and come right back to that spot. We're not looking for volume. Playing under control and quietly is the most important thing to learn. Learning to play loudly is very easy to do whenever we need to do that later on. Let's look at page 6, number 3, and you can look at the sticking on top of that, right, 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 then left, 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 left. So this is a good place for us to start. So here we go, song number 3. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good? Nice and easy? All right, let's take a look at song number 4. Now you'll see that the sticking on top of it goes right, left, or left, right, left, right. That's what we call alternate sticking. So this time when we play, we're going to use both sticks, one after the other, and we generally don't put both of them at the same time. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, you could start on your left stick, you could start on your right stick. There's reasons to do both. You'll end up doing it both ways. You'll start with the left, you'll start with right. You'll get used to both of them. You got to get both of your arms, your hands, your sticks being able to start and finish equally well. Now, when we move on down, you could then go ahead and play song number 6 and 7, because what we're going to do is we're going to jump down and show you a new thing. First of all, we're worried about our tap or our first stroke, but then what we're going to start doing is singing a single quarter rest. If you look at song number 6, you're going to see a quarter note, quarter note, quarter note, quarter rest. And what we're going to do with that quarter rest is we're going to do something called a ghost hit. And we're going to pretend like we're hitting, but we're going to stop the stick from hitting. So if you look at song number 6, here's the first part of that. I would go 1, 2, 3, ghost. I would go ahead and act like I'm going to hit so I can feel where that quarter rest is, but I'm not going to hit. We would call that a ghost. So far all we're looking at is tap and ghost and then alternate sticking. And then the 25-50-50 is just the way that we start to make sure that we're getting our hands sounding as close to the same as possible. So let's look at number 6 with the ghost. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good? All right, this is something you're going to want to do over and over, and every day it's going to get a little bit easier. After a couple of weeks, this should be feeling really comfortable. And again, we're just talking about as we're playing, remember that there is a difference in the stroke, not necessarily the stroke, but the way that you're holding the stick. And what's important to do then is on every day when you're playing the snare drum, also play the bells so you get used to your body and your brain and your muscles get used to going back and forth to the different strokes and the different feels. Okay? Let's do number 7. Let's do number 7. This time when we start, I'm going to start on my left stick just so you can see that it doesn't matter which one you start on. Then we're going to have the ghost on beat 3. Tapping and ghost on beat 3. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good? Good. All right. If you want to play more on these, obviously there's more songs you can play, especially when you look at page 7. Page 7 has a batch of songs that have the ghost hit on different ones. Let's take a look at number 10 just to see how it looks like when they are not always repeating exactly the same. All right, so this one's going to move around a bit, change a little bit. Number 10, here we go. Also notice that there is no strokes listed above it. You can start on any hand, you can end on any hand, and whenever you play right, you're going to automatically alternate to the left. Whenever you play left, you're going to automatically alternate to the right. So from now on, just doing your left, right, okay? Here we go. Song number 10. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You get the idea. Good. So that is our tap and our ghost. I would keep playing just those for a while until you feel comfortable. When you're ready to move on, Let's take a look at song number 16. Song number 16. For the first time, we're going to start with a rest or a ghost as we begin. So here we go. We're going to count and give that ghost stroke on beat 1. 16. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good? Let's do number 22. They're just going to kind of make it a little bit trickier. We're still working on the taps and the ghost. This is the last one for that. 22. 1, 2, 22, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, I would try to do this for several weeks so you get comfortable with going back and forth between just the tap and the ghost and your bells and your mallets. And then once you get comfortable with that, then it's time to move on. So let's look over at the next page, page 9, and we see something new. It's called a multiple bounce stroke. What we normally call it is a buzz stroke because it makes kind of a buzz sound when you play it. And this is where you're going to see the first time the big difference between the grip when you're holding it there. So when I'm holding this and I tap, it's just bouncing once. But now I'm going to actually, as I tap, I'm going to actually hold it down and make it bounce into the drum head. Right? I don't know if you can see it very well, but we'll just do a couple on both sides. This is kind of a strange feeling because it's the first time you've ever done anything. And again, this is where the difference of the grip comes in versus the holding the mallets with all your fingers. So we're going to try this. Now, the 25-50-50 you've been doing, you should be pretty good at that now. You might actually start trying doing 25-50-50 with buzzes, and maybe not that many, but just enough to get going on, like with your strong hand and with your weak hand. And then you can also do alternating. Now, we're not going to let it bounce that many times, but we're just trying to get the motion going. The other thing you can do, it's kind of a good idea, is to do both of them at the same time. See if they look the same and they bounce the same number of times, because then you're really starting to match. What normally happens is your strong hand gets the idea pretty quick, but your weak hand does this. And we don't want that. We want the multiple bounces. So again, the springs here have got to be looser here so that they're not going to be holding it quite so tight. The other thing that what some students like to do is whenever they start trying to get it to buzz, they like to drag it to make it buzz. Like a dog digging in the dirt. We're not going to do that. We're going to keep it there. We've got to make it by our fingers, not by our motion, right? So we're still using just our wrist. Okay, so that's the buzz. So right now I would just stop and I would work on some rights and some lefts, and then you can do both and then do some alternating just to get that feel. Now, when you look in the music, number 23, you can see measure 2 has 2 notes with a Z on them, and that's what we're talking about. That's the buzz stroke. So it would go like this. Measure 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I still got the ghost, I still got the taps, but now we're adding one new stroke, and we call it a buzz stroke. Okay? All right, let's try song number 23. Again, work on all that other stuff first, but when you're ready, try song number 23. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Good? All right, so that's one that's going to take some time to get used to as well. So just like you need to work on the tap and the ghost for several weeks, this is another one you're going to want to work on for several weeks before you move on. Another song you can work on there is number 26, lots of buzzes in number 26. Let's take a look. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good? All right, so that takes care of your tap, your ghost, and your buzz. Now we're ready to move on and learn one more for today, and this is the last one you'll need for the first half of the year, and this is called the Flam. We got to turn 2 pages over. We find song number 11, and page 11, and at the top you see a right flam and a left flam. Now you look at a tiny little eighth note with a line through it, and then it's tied to a regular quarter note. And there's a little L and a capital R, or a little R and a big L, right? And what that means is we're going to play 2 notes, but we're not going to play 2 notes exactly at the same time. We're going to actually play them slightly apart from each other so that it comes out with the sound flam, flam, flam. It just sounds like a big wide hit instead of a single tiny hit. So if we take our right hand on top and our left hand below, the left hand's going to hit first, that's that little note, and then the right hand's going to be the bigger note. Right? And we do the same thing by switching it, putting our left hand on top and the right hand below. And they're just almost together, but not quite. When you get this, that's not a flam. When you get this, that's not a flam. And so it takes a while to get it. And the easiest way to do it is to put them slightly different heights and then push them down at the same time. And then they're just naturally going to hit at slightly different times. So this is a good thing to work on for a while. And so what I would do is take my right flam, meaning my right hand is going to be above it, and I would just do that like 25 times. And just do it over and over and over and over and over until you get that where it's sounding pretty good. Then, when you get some good hits there, reverse it, put your left on top, and do the same thing until you get comfortable with that. So this is our 4th stroke. We now have the tap, the buzz, the tap, the ghost, the buzz, and now the flam. Now, we got to get good at both of them. So 36 and 37, you can see can be played the same. They're almost exactly the same. We're just switching them with the right flam versus the left flam. So depending on how you look at it, you can play 36 and 37, or you can play 36 twice using the right flam and then the left flam, or you could even switch in the middle. Anyway, you get the idea. Work on the flams. Let's do number 36. 36, 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, they were pretty good. I missed 2 or 3 of them. I got a little too close together, right? Let's try 37 or 36 with the left flam, right? Left on top. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good? All right, so that's going to take some time to get used to. Again, probably a couple of weeks before you feel really comfortable with that. But then when you've done that, you've got all the strokes that you're going to need for the rest of the year, and we're going to be putting together in different ways. 41 is actually your November test for the bells, and so we can also learn that on the snare drum as well. Let's take a look at number 41. It's going to combine taps, buzzes, flams, everything. One thing to point out on 41, this is the first time you've seen where you have 2 lines of notes. The very first thing you see is a quarter rest on top of a quarter note. The bottom line is for the bass drum, The top line is for the snare drum. So you're going to look across the top line, the top of the line, not the bottom of the line. So where the bass drum plays on beat 1, it's a ghost hit for the snares, and then we're going to do the flam. We're going to go 1, flam, right? Also, the other thing to notice on that, they have written in the sticking on which sticks you should use. You do not have to do that. Remember, we're just alternating. So start on whichever one you want to and switch to the other one. Okay? Here we go. 41. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Good? All right, so that's the 4 strokes we're going to need to know when we start really playing the snare drum on a regular basis in the spring. So start working through these. Give yourself plenty of time. It just takes your muscles and your brain a little bit of time to get used to it. Don't forget the most important part of the difference between the mallets and the snare is going to be the stroke. And how those back fingers are working like springs to hold it in place. And sometimes they relax and let it bounce around a little bit more. Sometimes they just hold it there and we get a single bounce out of it. Okay? All right, keep playing every day. Should get easier and easier and easier. Good job.